favorite, and Military Road may have finally found the field he's going to beat. And in some ways, you sort of feel sorry for this horse. This is him 2 back, losing the timeout, because, man, it has been an unusually tough group of horses that he has met. I mean, he's just got one stakes-type horse after another in his PPs. Though his last race was not good, but it's still probably good enough to beat these.
That's what I thought as well, and this is the kind of horse that it really pains me to put on top at a short price, one that hasn't been able to get the job done with 6 opportunities. But if you look at all of his races so far, he's run fast in each one. He's run against horses that have come back to run well in each single start of theirs, too, those that have come back. So I know the second-itis and even third is adding up, but I just could not find a viable alternative based on what anyone's done on the racetrack so far, so I ended up going with this one.
He looks like the speed in here, and man, he should put him in front and try to win. I'm going to use Stop the Press in a cold 4-6 exacta to try to get that horse home. Maybe getting back to the dirt for a horse who's not been on the dirt in a while could be the secret to him getting second, Stop the Press, but I have a trouble making anybody else win. I've given up on your horse, Daily Grind, who seems to have lost his good form.
Yeah, I can't say that I have much confidence in this one as far as this one being able to win. It's just really that group of horses that have had so many opportunities, and Military Road just looks like the one who's had the most consistent fast races against tougher.
Race number 2, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. There was a lot of strength in the AEs not getting in. We have both picked the 2 Marvelous Madison on top.
Yeah, I think this is actually the card where we agree the most out of ever. But this one, I have to shorty, a horse that did win first time out. There is that good precocity on the dam side for this one, having some of those siblings either win on debut or finish second in their first start. And just seems like a very live one going out for trainer Chad Brown. Now, shorty had more of that turf route pedigree influence. Caravaggio, a sprinter himself. So I don't mind this one being in that 5.5 furlong sprint versus the siblings going a little bit longer as well.
So half to 4 turf winners out of 5 to try it, and there's plenty of good turf in there. This horse has been entered at 1.16 and rained off like so many other horses, and I think that Chad Brown would prefer this horse going a little longer, but I think that sometimes people make the mistake with young horses of saying this horse has a distance pedigree and won't be able to be effective going short or is unlikely to, and I don't agree with that. You know, we saw the other day a horse finish second with an excellent distance pedigree for Jack Sisterson in one of these 5.5 furlong races. And I think with 2-year-olds, when they're just getting started in these kind of races, if they have quality, the distance doesn't come into play the same way it would later in their careers when the racing gets tougher and they start doing what they're meant to do. So I'm not overly worried about it. I meant to send in the replay for Forever to Go, the $310,000 half to 1 turf winner who did work an impressive 9 4/5 the 2-year-old sale. I see you have that horse second as well.
Yeah, it just seems like one where the trainer is familiar with the family of this one, Mark Hennig, and he has John Velasquez aboard, a horse that I really liked that workout, seemed to go pretty quickly, and a lot to pay for an honest mischief as well. So clearly that workout telling, as well as the physicality of the horse, that this one might have some ability, and there is that dam side pedigree.
Race number 3, we're going 6 furlongs here, and we'll take a look at Concharity winning back in April, and one of the greatest examples of why you always have to pay attention to off the turf races, and sometimes they're not interesting, but sometimes the most logical horses run 1-2 and pay combined for exacts to pay $70 while they're betting a hopeless turf horse that finishes last at a short price, and that's exactly what happened here. Flying P purchased this horse, and I guess they purchased it thinking they'd still be in the hunt for the owner's title. That's no longer the case, as they are 4 behind and only 2 stars in today's card, so Klarovich has cinched their 7th straight owner's title. Flying P looking for a win. If this horse runs nearly as well as the horse did yesterday, a 97 buyer and a $16,000 claimer, that's something you don't see every day.
It's not, and I don't think that will even need to be the standard attained for this horse in
You don't
this
think a
field.
97 buyer will be needed to win here?
I don't think she'll need to go that fast. It just seems like the inside speed in a race where she kind of outclasses the rest of this field based on what she's done on the racetrack so far. And even that race last time out, that was a significant stumble at the break for her. She did go down to her knees and then really was hustled up and faded in there. So I don't blame her for getting tired in that race where there was some other speed in there. And she had that difficult beginning. As you mentioned, Flying P on a roll this meet. And even though they're not going for that training title anymore, they're having a ton of success this meet. And in comparison to the rest of the horses in this field, I thought she just made a lot of sense.
Well, I mean, she has not run as quickly as Roman Goddess. I mean, Roman Goddess is consistently running numbers slightly higher. She's not a total
She
winning
doesn't
type
win.
with 2 wins in 1 second and 10 thirds, Roman Goddess. But I think she's a viable alternative here. And I think the reason that people like the one is that Flying P horses are not running their PPs. They're outrunning them dramatically, as evidenced by a 10 length, 12 and a half length win, I think, excuse me, sorry, my throat, with a 97 buyer. So I think the assumption is from all of us and all sane players out there, or players that are going insane, is these horses are outrunning their PPs.
Same thing,
and
right?
when that starts happening, you don't worry about a horse might be a little too slow. And I really wonder, I know that Irad is riding Roman Goddess, but I just wonder with these Flying P horses, if anybody can get away from it and this horse ends up being favored.
And also, isn't Concerti going to be in front of Roman Goddess to begin with?
Yeah, she's supposed to be the speed. No,
right.
I agree with you. You
So
said it
there's
earlier,
also
and I
that.
agreed.
She's not the winning type. I mean, yes, she has those faster races, but I think there is quite the edge to the inside.
My friend Phil wants to know who I like today. Turn on your computer, Phil.
It's a big secret. You'll never tell.
Race number 4, going 7 furlongs here, and we'll take a look at Herd on the Street, the number 2. I flirted with putting on top a horse that was claimed. My problem is this horse was with David Jacobson, and and I just don't trust, even for Linda Rice, I just don't trust these horses claimed from Jacobson.
And doesn't this horse need to get out of the gate quite a bit quicker than he has in his last 2 starts? I mean, really having those troubles out of there. And I get that this is a horse that was with Jacobson, went to Delaware for him, and then was claimed for the 16,000 and is stepping to the same level in this spot. But looking at overall, I just didn't love that he didn't pass that horse last time, even with that tough start. And I just kind of wonder if he's going to be repeating that 70 buyer and if he can get out of the gate towards the inside. That's a big concern
I
for me.
will disagree with that. His stumble was severe. I thought much more severe than the one in the last race, where he really dropped back a couple of lengths at the start. And I thought he ran very well in that race. I just don't trust this horse given the prior connections. That's my biggest problem with this horse, and one of the reasons I went to Pascal Moon. But why do you like Pascal Moon?
I mean, he has those races to go back to that are fast enough, and as a horse that had some speed once as well. Looking at this race and having that number 7 bench scratch out in here, another potential speed type, last out in his last race. He didn't run that well, but it's been a productive race moving forwards, as we saw Uncle Charlie's Gift come back to win yesterday for Nick Zito and Lane Luzzy. And it just seems as though overall he's faced some tough horses in his last couple of starts. He's second off the claim here. I want him to be forward in this race and try to show some of that speed he once had. And I also think maybe a little bit against the racetrack last out.
Well, I just thought he got a dreadful ride last time, to be honest. I don't know how this horse got completely shuffled back to last in the race, and I'd like to see Eric be more aggressive, as you suggested, with a horse that one time had some speed. Now, there may be a concern that he's just not the horse that he once was, and that's why he doesn't have the speed, but I don't understand how he fell as far back and out of it and shuffled out of it, and you got to keep him in contention to have a chance, so I wanted to give him one chance to reasonable price in this race because I don't really love anybody in here. I mean, Herd in the Street obviously can win, and you also have the entry, just the one left, Bonchance. So we'll look at Bonchance and Midnight Express. Midnight Express running second and Bonchance running third. The problem is this was in the midst of these Flying P horses running through walls, and this was a terrible race. For Bobby the Tank to win a race, it can't be a particularly good race. I mean, he was controlling speed, but he was pretty much dead in the middle of the stretch, and he still held up Midnight Express, who was sucking along on the rail, and Bonchance, who wasn't really gaining any ground. So for me, I thought the stronger half of the entry was the claim drop down Giant's Fire. Now, listen, I'm not going to be shocked by any horse winning for Flying P, but this horse's last race was terrible.
And he seemed like one of those horses that was going to be that precocious 2-year-old that maybe could take that step forward, and he just hasn't really gone on, and I don't know how much running he really did in that last race. I agree with you. It seemed like the second and third place finishers were just running their race and not really making this big move behind a horse that was able to control on the front end, who I agree is not that good.
A horse that's 4-1 in the Morning Lion here is Stormquist. We left him out. I just thought his form was somewhat declining for Linda Rice, and as much as I respect the Cantermachis, I don't want a horse whose form was declining for Linda Rice.
No, and I don't want a horse that's really been a part of paces that he's been dueled into the ground. He's had other horses that are able to survive those paces more so than him, and I thought that would be the same case in here.
Race number 5, I don't see any reason to try to beat this horse prerequisite. We'll take a look at her finishing second in the Belmont Oaks to Aspen Grove. This was a very good field, and Chad Brown's numbers off of 250-day plus layoffs in turf routes are off the charts good. He's 27% overall with 161 starters and a $2.11 ROI. And for a guy whose horses go off at reasonably short prices, to win at that level with that ROI is remarkable. And Saratoga, he's 11 for 44, 25% with a 268 ROI. These horses show up, and if this horse shows up, she is going to beat this field. She's just better than them.
Yeah, she's the obvious horse to beat in this spot based on what she's done already on the racetrack. The layoff, always a question, but as you mentioned, he has excellent numbers getting these horses to come back off of breaks like that. And she also has speed to her advantage and draws well towards the inside as well. And the rails are down on the inner turf course today, once again, correct?
They are. So what do you like about the girl from Ireland?
She's been able to save some ground and have that tactical type of trip, and especially being drawn towards the inside in here with those rails coming down, I thought she would have the best opportunity to potentially beat your favorite if there is actually some speed in this race, which I know it never develops, but at least on paper, it looks like a couple of horses do want to be forward in here, and she had a significant stumble at the start last time, still able to overcome that, yes, against lesser company at Laurel, but I like this horse getting the post that she's getting and having that tactical ability, and even kept some good company here on debut as a 2-year-old. So is she good enough? Probably not, but just wanted to take a small shot against.
I'm going to use Quarrel in this race, who I think will be the clear speed. I can't imagine prerequisite engaging in a fast pace. So even though Timeform US had us a fast pace, I don't think it's happening. We don't have fast paces here ever anyway, especially in two-turn turf races. And she kind of ran off against better horses last time. And I know she's dressed up by that silly fig two back because she was in against much better horses. But the reality is she's not that bad. And I could see her being loose in the lead. So she's the one that I would use in here. Root Cause is okay. We'll take a look at her last race. But she won last time because of a mistaken ride by another rider and allowing Irad to get to the front, though the horse that she sort of hoodwinked did come back to win, albeit getting disqualified.
I just don't really know how good this horse is based on what we've seen from her so far. She was able to have a nice trip last time out, and I agree with what you're saying about this ride really getting her the win and really being more about a mistake by someone else. I think that overall, I wonder what sort of horses she's faced, but I think she's still that little bit of an unknown. I've seen her overcome some other trips that are not quite as easy as that one in the past, and I think we're still waiting to see where she really fits from a class standpoint.
Or almost overcome, not really overcome those trips and those races. I think Dreaming of Mo is a little interesting in here. For Dale Romans, cutting back in distance. She didn't want any part of a 1 3/8. That course was really yielding, obviously, or even probably soft. We took the races off the turf after that. And the race before it, I thought, was a solid enough effort going shorter. I think she's a little interesting for Dale to get a piece in this race, but I am not trying to beat the favorite. You are. Race number 6. We both picked the 10. Go ahead.
I mean, this looks like a race where it's horses that have had trouble getting out of the gate. And this one, he finished ahead of a couple, or the horses that finished ahead of him could be okay. It seems like he was far back in a race that was dominated forwards. We've seen Under Whose Radar and the Toner come back and run okay, with Under Whose Radar switching to the turf and being disqualified from a first place finish at Kentucky Downs yesterday. The Toner did what he does in another race.
That was a turf race. The horse was disqualified.
Yes, and the Toner did what he does and filled out the exotics in his next start. So I just thought that the race dynamics last time were really against him, and he could improve second time out.
I didn't think he broke slowly at all. I think he just dropped back sharply after the start, and sometimes that's an indication of a horse that's just trying to figure out what he's doing in there. And I thought he ran a little bit. I don't really know. I just didn't have any particularly strong opinions in here. I mean, One Vision is going to take money for John Terranova, and did lose to a off-the-turf horse that was heavily bet for Shug McGay. I don't know. Maybe this horse is dangerous, but 5.5 furlongs off the turf to a 7-furlong scheduled race didn't make me want to take this horse, and I just wanted to go elsewhere. But to be fair, he ran well enough that he could win here, or at least be a factor.
Sure. I mean, it was a fast enough race based on what we've seen from the others that have some experience in here. I just kind of wonder, like you said, overall quality of the field versus an intended dirt race like we're going to be seeing from him today. I get keeping him on the surface. He ran fine last time out, but I just didn't want to take this one at a short price. Thought that somebody else could be a little more interesting from the first-time starters as well.
You have the 3 Omaha Pistol second, Irad Ortiz riding for Jeremiah Engelhard, who started the meet-off house on fire. I don't think he's had a live first in a while, but no one can have that many.
No, and I mean, this horse has had some good works as well. And I like that 3 works ago he ran so quickly to finish fourth best of 182. And then they've been a little bit slower since then, more maintenance workouts to really just keep the fitness without really asking too much of him. And seems like he's just been a horse that's been ready for a minute to get into one of these types of races. And I never ignore when Ira Ortiz Jr. is named to ride on a first time starter for anybody because you think he has a little bit more of a choice.
I'm going to use two horses in this race, one that has experience and one that doesn't. I'm going to use Mozambique for Linda Rice, who has enough pedigree to be interesting. And I just feel like sometimes she seems to have live 2-year-olds somewhat late in the meet. And the Barclay Tag horse, Spear of the Law, who caught a sloppy track for Saratoga first time out and ended up out in the middle of the racetrack. I tend to want to give that horse one more chance. We'll see. 7 furlongs. I do like using horses that have experience, and we have mostly firsters here. We'll take a break. We'll be back with the second half of the final Saratoga card.
150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Well, welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling, the closing day Talking Horses. Race number 7. We've got the New York Breds going 7 furlongs, the second division of the same race we just ran last time. And you have Butta on top.
This horse needs to improve, but has the pedigree to do so. I mean, he's a have to, as we know. Chowda, Lobster, great names that are coming in the family for this one. And he just really didn't have an easy first time out. He got slammed on either side out of the gate in that race. And while he didn't do too much after that to really entice, some horses just get discouraged after the gate when they have something like that happen to them. So I want to see what he can do possibly with a little bit of a cleaner break. And I like that he is drawn towards the outside and has the pedigree to improve, though I think that he would need to.
He is a small horse. We'll see what happens with him. Rockstar Rebel on the outside gets in. We both have that horse second. Charlie Baker's had a couple wins, so he's gotten a little bit liver, and I'm glad to see that happen. And I thought this horse did enough running in there. Got really slammed hard coming out of the gate, and I thought ran enough right down the rail for Dylan. Not there's anything wrong with the rail that day. Speed did run 1-2. I thought he was a very dangerous horse getting it off the also eligibles.
Yeah, I kind of wonder who was in that field, but it might not matter. Just a horse that makes a lot of sense based on that first race and being able to overcome that trouble as well, as we saw him at least try to do some running in that race after a tough start.
I like Friend of the Devil in this race, and not just because it's a Grateful Dead song, but this is a horse that actually ran really well first time. Broke about a half slowly and sort of dropped back to the back of the pack before making a very big run 5 wide and was contending until really the top of the stretch in that race before understandably falling apart in what was a pretty decent race in a sloppy track. And it just feels to me like a horse, the race under his belt, that he could improve a lot. Irad picks up the mount on this horse, and I thought he was a very, very logical second-time starter going 7 furlongs.
Yeah, I think the horses with experience in this race have a little bit more of a trip first time out and a little bit more of an interesting level in this race going forwards than the previous division.
Yeah, Solar Glare getting in here for those connections coming from Penn National. They have very good numbers, 3 for 7 with 2-year-old firsters and dirt sprints, but they are all at Penn National, though this New York bred coming in. I think they're people you have to consider dangerous. They looked live in the last yesterday. That horse just set too fast a pace for those horses going 7 furlongs.
Agreed. A horse that, out of the first-time starters, that was kind of the one that I did want to consider.
Race number 8 is the Harvey Pack, named for my very good friend Harvey Pack, who had such an impact in this game. You know, we had Andy Beyer here Saturday, a man who changed the game for many, many players. And Harvey Pack is somebody who, his popularity in New York, it's sort of unmatched. you still talk to people, they talk about Harvey and how much they enjoy his paddock clubs. And there's an argument made that the things we're doing up here wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Harvey. Harvey was the one who, between races back at Belmont and Aqueduct back in the 70s, used to bring people on between the races on weekends and interview them on TV. He had his paddock club, which is, legendary down in New York, and also up here as well in the summer with great guests coming there. And Harvey was not a handicapper. And Harvey would say, I'm not a handicapper, I'm an entertainer. And he would bring on people to do the handicapping. And Harvey's the one who started the replay show back on Sports Channel in right around 1980. So many great guests, so many sort of legendary people involved in the game. And just, bringing intelligent insight about horse racing into people's living rooms, but also at the racetrack, and talking about racing in ways that it didn't really happen that much. And of course, my opportunity to work with him at the Ciro seminars, and I'd known Harvey for years before that. He put me on TV in the mid-'70s. Those Ciro seminars, I think one of the things in life that is unfortunate is you look back and you think, I should have appreciated this more, I should have done this more. Every single day that I walked over to Ciro's to work with Harvey Pack, I said to myself, you'll never do anything that's better than this, anything more fun and anything more informative. We had so much fun in those seminars. And my time with Harvey driving back from the track when he would tell me about all the plays he had seen, Marlon Brando and Streetcar Named Desire and Lee J. Cobb and Death of a Salesman. And Harvey was a very funny guy. It was actually more entertaining off camera. A lot of people are entertaining on camera and they're kind of a drag off camera. Harvey was the opposite of that, and his family will be here today, which is great. And they're coming up for the second running of the Harvey Pack. And I know I'm going on and on and on, but Harvey meant a great deal to me. And I think there's an argument that I might not be sitting here today. I'm not sure a lot of people around the country would be doing the things they're doing if it hadn't been for Harvey Pack. And by naming this stake for him is a way to remember him going forward and everything he meant to horse racing, and particularly to horse racing in New York.
It's just been a pleasure to hear you talk about someone that I didn't get the pleasure of knowing, and just really seeing that admiration and ability to have that long-lasting impact on how the rest of racing and racing television has gone on. And I think that this race being named for him is just something that really honors that memory and gives you that opportunity to talk about someone that has been so influential and important.
And he would have loved it at a turf. He would have loved the humor in a turf sprint being named for him. Arzak is way the horse to beat in this race. We'll take a look at him finishing second to Cogburn. And I know he didn't get it done last time, but he's just and actually this is the Giants' Causeway, or Shaker Down back at Keeneland that he won. And he's just a really good, honest horse.
He is. He's just been so consistent with the kind of numbers that he's been able to run. He can sort of do it from wherever on the race course. He's not going to be way too far back. He just has that consistency coming in. And we've looked at how that Jaipur has played out going forwards with Star of Mystery coming back to do so well. And you know that he's faced at least one of the best in the division. And yes, he didn't win as the favorite last time out, but it's not like he ran a terrible race in defeat in that effort behind Nothing Better, and That's Right. So way the horse to beat in this spot, has the credentials coming in, has the numbers as well. And the only reason I want to take a small shot against is because I went with a horse that might be in front of him. But that's the only way that I thought you could possibly beat him.
We'll take a look at the replay of Super Quest holding off our shot last time out. And I understand that he's talented and he's fast. I'm going to tell you something. I have some real concerns with horses running inside, especially in the stretch on this Mellon turf course. I think if you look at yesterday's races, the movers outside were the ones who were running the best. Now, he is one that drifted a little bit here, but he is the main speed, and I'm just not so sure that being the main speed, and to be fair, one of the turf sprints yesterday was won by a speed that drifted well out into the course. It worries me a little bit that speed and horses that end up down inside are going to be somewhat disadvantaged in this course. I may be wrong, but that really felt like something I noticed in all three of the Mellon turf races yesterday.
I think that's a fair concern. I don't know that Charging is faster than him, but I think there has to be some intent to try to get that horse to be forwardly
Charging
placed.
can't be in front of him. This horse is a rocket ship.
No, he's faster, but I think that they're at least going to be a horse who's inside that tries to show some speed and be forwardly placed, and maybe that keeps him slightly off the rail a little bit, at least in the beginning stages of this race. And it's not as though that last race came out of nowhere. He's had those races where he's shown that brilliant speed and against some good company as well. I mean, running against No Balls and finishing third, running against Grooms All Business, who is in great form right now. I mean, I think that he's just going to get that advantageous front end trip in this spot. And I don't think that he necessarily is going to be too hindered by being right on the rail the whole time around.
Okay. I hope that Charging doesn't try to challenge him, and I hope that he's able to get him out. And obviously, Charging is a complete shot in my part with a long shot, and it's probably an idiotic pick in my part because I just want an alternative, and I don't want Super Quest to wire the field. I think Big Invasion we'll take a look at here is very dangerous. I know those were somewhat lessers, but I think he is dangerous, and especially if you want horses coming from behind. And I think finally Big Invasion's in a field where he's not going to be that short a price. And while I don't think he's better than Arzak, he's pretty darn good. And yeah, he's lost a step this year, and maybe having Lasix really helped him in his two of his three best races were with Lasix, but he ran well in the Breeders' Cup without it, so I do think he's dangerous. But I didn't really want to pick him on top, and I didn't want to put Arzak on top at a short price. So I found Charging. The switch to Mike Maker. I originally thought this was a private purchase. It's not. It's the same silks. I'm wondering if this owner uses a stable name when they're out of town. But this is a horse that has run pretty well, and I thought got a bit of a trip 2 races back against Whitty, who I actually think is okay, and Outlaw Kid, who was the horse that was beating Big Invasion there, and I thought he ran well enough to contend. So I thought he had a little bit of a shot to outrun his odds. He's not a horse I'm just making a big bet on, but I think he has a chance to get a piece in the Harvey Pack, race number 9, going 1 mile and a 16th. And you've got 2 Chad Browns in here that I did not. We both picked second and third. We'll take a look at Dia Matrona finishing second to It's Hot in here. I don't have anything against them. They're both okay. They may run 1-2 again, but I don't know. I didn't want to pick them on top.
Yeah, they both make a lot of sense. They both ran well last time out, finishing 1-2 in that $50,000 claiming race for non-winners of 2. I just like that Dia Matrona had shown a little bit more speed in that race. I thought It's Hot in here got that nice trip up the rail to defeat her, and maybe wasn't the one that was really challenging the other horses that were forwardly placed. They could both win. I didn't really want either of them at a super short price, but I wouldn't be surprised by either of them getting the job done.
Talk about the horse we picked on top, Suppernet Coca.
I thought this horse just ran well last time out, dropping in for a tag for the first time in terms of not being in that optional claiming race. And of course, we've seen Mike Maker having a sensational meet here at Saratoga. He takes this horse, puts the blinkers on this one, horse that maybe could try to be somewhat forwardly placed towards the inside with Luis Saez aboard, who's really picked things up over the last couple of weeks of the meet. And as we talked about earlier, on the inner turf course, those rails being down and having that inside post position could be advantageous.
Yeah, I don't think she ran well last time out. I thought she got a bad ride last time out. I mean, Florent, who I am friendly with and love dearly, just got completely lost on this horse last time out. He was so far back, he would have needed to get into a jet plane to be effective in here. So I don't think she ran well, but I think one of the problems was he just dropped way, way too far back. And I do think by putting blinkers on and getting Luis Saez to ride, and while this horse does not have any speed, maybe they can find a way to get the horse to not lose complete touch of the field. And listen, I'm a little scared of Next on Stage, who Ray Handel claimed, and Ray's had himself a tremendous meet. So maybe she's a horse that just took to the turf, and Ray made an excellent claim for Horacio de Paz, and that horse could be forward and perhaps faster than Diamond Status in this race. But I'm going to take Suppernet and Coca and hoping off the trainer change, putting blinkers on, get more in the race, because this horse has run well in the past. I did think it was odd, though, that the Graham Motion gave up on this horse so quickly last time, clearly wanting to lose her in there, and that bothers me a little bit. So maybe it wasn't Flo. Maybe she's just not very good.
I mean, was it that quick? She'd had plenty of opportunities and had run okay, and it seemed like the form was declining a bit from what she'd shown earlier on in her career. And I get that she faced some tougher horses overall, but I don't know. I thought she had her opportunities and just was spotted in a logical place.
I don't agree. She actually ran very well in the Makanga race when you consider the race, and she's the one that got in trouble along with Oversubscribed. She didn't even finish barely behind her, and Oversubscribed probably should have won the Lake George, and then she just got an absolutely preposterous trip at Delaware. So I don't agree. Now, maybe I'm wrong, and we can agree to disagree, but I thought it was an awfully big give-up. We'll see what happens in here. It's not like Mike wants to lose this horse right away going into the starter. The Hopeful, the final grade 1 of the meet, comes up, and a horse that has, been super impressive and absolutely ran, one of the most impressive 2-year-olds this race this year was Ferocious. And I guess the question as we take a look is he going to run as well, maybe better, on a dry track after getting a muddy sealed track last time out? How is the pace going to be? Now, he did rate last time, but I think you're going to see this 4, the 7 clearly have speed. Innovator is probably going to be aggressive. And how quick are they going to be going up front? And is it possible that will adversely affect him in his second start?
I think it's completely possible, and I think looking at that first start, was it actually intentional to have him rating off the pace because he didn't get out of the gate all that quickly in there and then had to make up that ground. He was off a little bit slow, was able to have a nice daylight advantage on the field after that and earn that 96 Beyer speed figure for that effort, but is that really how he wants to run? We don't really know yet. At least he's shown that he can pass horses. I like that they were really convinced that this horse was going to be one of the better ones that they were trying to get from that OBS March sale, and talking to Ramiro Restrepo before the race last time out, he was looking at a couple of different horses to purchase, and then this was the one that they wanted most, and so
they found the $1.3 million 2-year-old.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
very impressive. I mean, with all due respect, and Ramiro's a terrific guy, he's a $1.3 million purchase. So a lot of people thought he was worth paying a lot of money for.
So
I
they ended up
they didn't find a diamond in the rough
no,
here.
they
Let's
did not.
not.
I'm saying that more that they were looking at several different horses and then were willing to go to that 1.3 for this one and not get the other horses that they were looking at. So
he's worth more than 1.3 million now. And the interesting thing is, the strongest contenders he has to deal with are deeper closers. And I don't think he's going to necessarily, not just he's going to get chewed up in a fast pace, but I think there are going to be moving up front. And I'm not sure this race couldn't be a little bit similar to last year's Hopeful, which had a fast pace and ultimately kind of fell apart. And obviously the logical horse is Chancellor McPatrick. And Chancellor McPatrick was very impressive last time. We'll show him early. I don't know. You know, I think that personally, now a lot of people will disagree with me, I think we overuse kickback. I don't think it's that big an issue that often. But I do think the way he was throwing his head around at this point, it could well be an issue now. The interesting thing was after the race, Flavien Prat talked, and he didn't make any mention of him having an issue with kickback. But that doesn't mean it wasn't the case. Regardless, and I know horses came back, the horse who was second and didn't run as well, trying to go a mile in his next start. But he ran okay here, and this horse is the only horse that gained ground in this race, and he made quite the run to get up, and more distance can only help his chances, and you'd have to think after that race he'll be a little more professional as well.
I think he made everybody look like a bunch of nobodies in this race, but I think that what we saw the other day was kind of telling in terms of those horses coming back, because it wasn't just the second place finisher, it was also the third place finisher, Noble Confessor, and a couple of other horses as well. And I get that they were stretching out in distance, and maybe that's had some mitigating circumstance on their poorer performance, but a lot of horses from this race have regressed pretty significantly from that first out effort. And just with the way that he was able to blow by this whole field and make that big move from off the pace, I kind of wonder who he was really facing. And we've seen others from other races by some of these entrants come back and be more productive going forwards.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree. I think he is a major, major player in here. I also think, though, if David Aragon had a chance to go back in the morning line, I kind of wonder if he would have made these two horses closer together. Because Chancellor McPatrick and Incentive Pay been working well together. Incentive Pay's been working well. And also, as we look at Incentive Pay, and we're going to take a look at the start of his race and the trouble he had, horses have come back out of this race and been very live, including the second place finisher, the one who broke slowly. But Incentive Pay broke a bit slow, and unlike that horse, he had some real trouble as he's starting to rally in this point and keep it rolling. And we see him as Joel starts right now trying to move up, and he's going to have to steady behind horses. The second horse in here came back and improved 24 Beyer points. And the way this horse is working, I'm not really sure that that slow figure is going to be that relevant. We missed the steady. That's probably my fault. I should have just shown the whole race. Regardless, I thought this horse ran extremely well given the break and the trouble he had in the backstretch, and he's working well since, and I'm not sure there's going to be as big a difference between him and Chancellor McPatrick. Now, you don't like Chancellor McPatrick, so if you're right, they both stink. I think they're both pretty good, and I think they're the second and third, at worst, the second and third likeliest winners of this race.
I don't know. I think that seeing how both of the have had horses come back out of their respective races, we've seen some improve, we've seen some regress. I think that maybe it was the distance, but overall that's something that happened. Maybe it's not indicative of their overall ability, but look, Incentive Pay with what he was able to overcome in that race and really multiple spots of trouble, I think that that was a gutsy effort by him, and I like him a little bit better.
We should talk about Mentee, who who I imagine will take money in this race off his 88 buyer in the first race. And I don't agree with the confident handling thing here. This horse was,
He almost got caught.
he was running as fast as he could, and maybe Johnny was confident, but I don't think. And Rich is one that Richie agrees with me on, that this horse could never have gone any faster. Fortunately, the Weaver horse, who was second here, has not come back colloquial because he ran extremely well. I feel like he has a very big pedigree also. This horse had had some real issues, and
Right.
he was scratched out of the Sanford on opening weekend here. And I got to tell you, this is a very tough spot to come back for a horse that was folding his tent at 5 furlongs to go 7 furlongs with other speed in the race. And I kind of wonder if his biggest claim to fame is ultimately going to be that he's a full to fierceness.
I kind of just want to see it again going a little bit further, and especially after having some of those issues and having to scratch out of a race earlier this meet. This is not plan A for Connections in terms of where to point him directly following that maiden race. And as you said with Colloquial, we don't really know the metric of how good that race was that he's coming out of in terms of which horses have come back to do something
Well,
out of
it
there.
was a very fast race.
Even though it was fast.
Right. I mean, we don't need to see everybody run back, to be fair, you know? That was a fast race. I think the questions are the layoff and the distance and other speed in here. That was a very fast race. No speed figure doesn't have that race fast, and that does mean something.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't mean something. I'm saying that I want to see it again, and especially see how horses come back out of that race, because sometimes that does tell more of the story.
All right, we'll see what happens. The final grade 1 of the meet, the hopeful, race number 11. We'll take a look at Child of the Moon, who finished second to Root Cause. We'll see this replay for a second time. He got a very good ride by Flavien, saving ground, but this was a race that was dominated up front. She's a logical horse in here. I didn't want to put her on top, but I do think she's very logical in here. She ran well in there, and there's no reason not to think she's a major player.
She did. She had to go a little wide. It was a race that, as we talked about earlier, was dominated forwards with Root Cause being able to secure that forward position. Ran well to finish second to her. I don't think the third place finisher of that race is all that bad either. Vino Rouge. She makes a lot of sense in here. I just kind of wonder if there are other horses that might have that forward advantage on her, especially the horse that I ended up going with on top in Collaboration.
Well, you don't think this pace is going to be honest in here? I mean, you've got horses like Sugar High.
Is the pace
You've
ever
got
honest?
Do-Gooder. I think this one will be at least honest. And so we'll look at Collaboration. And you say you want her because she's forward. Don't you think because they found that she could run effectively rating last time that they probably won't be as aggressive with her?
Well, do you think it was intentional to have her rate last time?
Yes. Because look at him. He's taking the horse back right now.
I think
So,
that the
yeah,
second steady was not intentional going into the turn for this
I don't
horse.
agree. I think that Dylan had
Nobody
an intention
wants to be
rate.
in traffic like this.
Well, he saw he wasn't getting the lead, so he took the horse back, don't you think? And she ran effectively.
She
Okay,
ran
we'll just
fine.
agree to disagree. So you expect her to be forward.
She's run some of her better races while forward. I think it was more circumstance last time than actual intent. Yes, they found out something about her. She was able to close some ground in there, but I don't know if that's ultimately what they're going to be doing again today.
Okay. I mean, listen, I think she ran fine. She ran, she got a good trip when she rated. She showed that she could sit behind horses. I don't disagree. It was a decent enough effort. I just preferred some other horses in here, but I'm not going to argue that she's a horse that can win this race because she certainly is a horse that can win this race. I'm interested in mystifying. I just have a thing for this horse. I was going to pick this horse in a dirt race because I wondered if she's a little bit better than she looks, but she really has a turf pedigree. The
Yes.
Dam's a multiple winner on the turf. She's produced 2 turf winners. For what it's worth, non-maidens, first on the turf, Shug is 3 for 14 in routes with 6 hitting the board and a 219 ROI, so he's had some success doing it. And I thought she'd actually be forward in here. And sometimes if they're turf horses, they don't have the same running style. But I thought there was horses in here, a lot of horses that could be forward. Isn't Do-Gooder, doesn't she have to go in here?
I guess. I mean, I think that with that one, we don't really know how fast she is on the turf yet because we haven't seen her on that surface as of yet.
Yeah.
Just like mystifying, yes, they have that dirt speed, but we don't necessarily know how it translates over to the turf course
All right,
until
what
it
about
happens.
the 7 Venetia coming off the long layoff? I don't know what to make of her. I mean, Chad Brown does have those good numbers off a long layoff, and at least in her case, I don't think she'll be that short. Well, she's IRAD, so she can't be much of a price.
Yeah, it's just in terms of how she's going to be bet based on the jockey. I don't know how good she really is. And I get that she was off a little bit slow in that race behind prerequisite. She's been off for a long time. She's lightly raced, and we don't know that much about her. But I want to see something from her before I take her at under 5-1.
I agree with you. Golden Rocket's a horse that has back races that make her a player. I mean, she was in that race that just completely fell apart on the slow, fast pace last time, but she's better going longer.
Yeah, I like her stretching
Presumably.
back out.
Yeah.
She's a horse that's run well at a variety of distances, but I really do like her getting more distance to work with. She's just been very consistent in her turf routes overall, and seems like she came back with an effort that somewhat made sense in that turf sprint, running third in there and at least showing that she still has a little bit of ability.
So you're going to the October 13th, 2023 race was the key race for this. I wonder, and another horse I think is a little interesting but drew very badly is Beats. Beats hopped up between horses and was completely cut off and lost all chance and was impressive wiring the field. Now, I don't know what Johnny's going to do in a race with plenty of speed, breaking from a close to far outside post with one scratch. But if Beats had drawn closer the inside, a race with less speed, I'd be more interested. But I did think her maiden win was okay. Race number 12 as we close out the meet. On the marathon card and marathon week of racing, we'll take a look at the 5 Lula's Redemption last turf race. Probably, and the way the race was run, despite the pace, moved a little soon. I guess she's logical. I'm just a little sick of her.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way with this one, and I thought there were more horses that had a little bit more daylight ahead of them in terms of doing something different in here and less opportunities to sort of disappoint at a level like this that made sense. She ran fine. I just didn't really see enough to tell me that this was a horse I wanted to take in this spot with some others that, like the number 4 Pamplona Red, dropping in class on the turf. Like number 3 Lucky and Gorgeous with the jockey trainer combination that she has and running well last time with a terrible trip in that spot. So I don't know. I mean, I think that she makes a lot of sense, and Tourjet is also one that's trying the turf for the first time.
We'll talk about the one horse you picked. You just assume because, I mean, listen, I get it. There must be something magical going on because the one horses that Sean have ridden for Melanie Giddings have run considerably better than they could possibly run based on their PPs, or they've been first-time starters, they've been crazy, and I get it. But this horse, her turf races are bad.
Her turf races are better than her dirt races, and I mean, looking at
well, she got a dream trip when she finished second from one of the best riders on earth. And with all due respect to Sean, he ain't no Flavian Pratt.
No, but
and
Bossy
then when
Jeans was trying to get into a maiden claiming race for forever on the turf.
But she just sat on the rail the whole way and just picked up the pieces in the late stages. There are no killers in here. You've just got to be assuming that there's some sort of Harry Potter magical thing going on between Sean and Melanie.
I'm not super into
I
magic.
can't argue with because it feels like it's been happening throughout the meet, and I doubt I'm the only one that's
I just don't
seen
think
it.
she really had a fair shot in that last turf race two back. She was squeezed at the start, really had to steady out of there. And I thought that her race on the grass, where she did finish second to Bossy Dreams with a great trip, was just one that at least shows she can handle a turf route. And we don't know that that's the case for some of the other horses in this field.
Okay, fine. I don't see it, but I've been wrong a lot. I just took Tourjet because I want a horse first time on the turf that's got pedigree, a half to 2 turf winners. Rossi de Paz tried to get this horse into the turf twice, including once in a stake that she was eligible for, a war dancer. And this horse has run well enough in the dirt. If she improves in the turf, I'm all about her. I think Ricardo Santana picked up the mount on this horse. And anybody else in here? I got the 4, Pamplona Red, who I thought ran okay last time on the turf.
I don't love Bomb Squad.
Because?
I think there's just been opportunities for this horse, and seems like one, yes, she's only been in for the tag once on the turf, but she was the favorite in there, and I just did not see much to recommend in terms of that effort.
Horses like this, I think, have a tendency to do well, and I thought it was interesting that Irad is riding the 10 for Linda Rice in the last race, a horse that's a half to 2 turf winners here. One ran figures in the 90s. So there is some. I know that Linda's not great with first-time stars, though, in maiden claimers on the turf. She's 2 for 12 overall. New York Breds 1 for 4, 233 ROI. And I thought it was interesting that Irad showed up on this one. And I'll tell you, it ain't going to take a Herculean effort to win this race.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
I
there's a
think
Freud.
that
We'll
it's
see
wide
what
open.
happens. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for always being there to make Saratoga is such a special place, and thanks to everybody behind the scenes here, which often Sarah is involved in that as well.
Everywhere.
That don't get the credit and don't get the exposure they deserve, including our camera crew back here and all the people around the track and the people in the truck that work so hard and get absolutely no credit whatsoever, and the guys who put the videos up and they edit the videos and do everything and they put up with me. So thank you to them, but also thank you to all of you out there who, without whom we wouldn't have jobs and we wouldn't have so much fun in Saratoga. And there's still 12 races and about 7 hours of fun left here. So thanks to everybody for helping make it so great here in Saratoga. And we're going to thank you by asking you to go to Naira Bets. Head on over to Naira Bets and use the promo code SPOT250 and we'll match the $250 of your initial deposit. We got track stats there as well. We've also got a $10 money back, win back bet guarantee if your horse runs second or third any of the races here today at Saratoga. I'd pick the small fields if I were you. I don't think there are any actually today, so I think you're screwed on that one. So that's a good thing. What else do we have? A cross country Big Five, the final Saratoga cross country Big Five until 2025. 2 at Monmouth, 3 at Saratoga, and Saratoga Live, last Saratoga Live of the year, 12:30 to 7 on FS2. Unlike yesterday, we do not expect to be interrupted. The interruption yesterday was at least planned, so I don't know if that makes it better, but it is what it is. Sarah, thanks again. Thanks to you. And Frank Miramati, he's got 12 races to go, and he's going to come up with the final reprise of the scratches and changes of the Saratoga meet. Enjoy the day, and thanks a lot.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we ask that you please rise and remove your caps for our national anthem. A very pleasant good afternoon. Welcome to closing day at Saratoga Racecourse. The track is fast and the turf course is firm. Here are the changes. There are no changes in the first race. The beginning of the mandatory payout early pick 5. With this being closing day, mandatory payouts in all pools. Race 2, number 9, Horseplay, the jockey Romero Mirage. Scratch 11, Disco Star, and 12, Teller to Win. Early pick 4 starts with race 2. In the third, scratch 6, Dolce Serra. In the fourth race, middle pick 4, scratch 1A, Giants Fire, and scratch number 7, Venge. In the fifth, we begin a mandatory payout pick 5 on races 5 through 9, scratch 6, Promiser America. Note number 7, Quarrel, the jockey Dylan Davis. Number 9, Self Confident, will now be ridden by Manny Franco. Scratch 10, Ichiban. 11, Sweetest Princess, and 12, Toned Up. 10, 11, and 12, along with the 6, are out of the fifth. Race 6, scratch 11, Corvus, beginning of the pick 4 on races 6 through 9. In the seventh, number 3, Friend of the Devil, the jockey Irad Ortiz Jr. Irad Ortiz rides number 3. Scratch number 8, Daytona Gold, the also eligible is in. And the mandatory payout, pick 6, the pick 6 will be paid out in its entirety today. Starts with the 7th on races 7 through 12, $1 pick 6 wager. The 8th is the 12th running of the Harvey Pack. Start of the mandatory payout, late pick 5. Number 7, Mr. Will be ridden by Junior Alvarado. Junior Alvarado rides number 7, Mr. in the Harvey Pack. In the 9th, scratch 2, She's Cool. Scratch 12, Sizzle. Scratch 13, Sweet Duchess. Scratch 14, La Vita Sofia. Scratch 15, Save Us Melania. And scratch 16, Fast Kimmy. 2, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 are out of the 9th. Start of the late pick 4. The 10th and featured event is the 120th running of the Grade 1 Hopeful. Number 2, Ferocious, the jockey Irad Ortiz Jr., and we're still waiting for a rider for number 5, Smokin' Wicked. Dallas Stewart, please contact the jockey's room. In the 11th, number 5, Mystifying, will be ridden by Jose Ortiz. Scratch 6, Broderie. 10, Determined Lily, the jockey Luis Saez. Scratch 14, Audacious. Scratch 15, Deck of Cards. Scratch 16, Crystal Air. And the meet closes with race 12. Scratch 1, Wicked Rhea. Note that number 2, Tour Jeté, will now be ridden by Ricardo Santana Jr. Number 4, Pamplona Red, the jockey Dylan Davis. 7, Cherbourg, the jockey Louis Rivera Jr. And 11, Tone of Silence, make the jockey Danilo Grisales Rave 2 pounds over. Scratch numbers 12, Coach Sessa, 13 Lady Lauban, 14 Starlight Dancer, 15 Dubawi Wawi, and 16 Sendera. Out of the 12, scratch 112, 13, 14, 15, and 16. You have it as we have it. Enjoy closing day. 25 minutes to post for the opener at Saratoga Racecourse.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at nairabets.com.
The New York Racing Association welcomes you to Saratoga Racecourse. Your safety is our primary concern. If it becomes necessary to evacuate Saratoga Racecourse, please follow these guidelines to walk calmly out and away from the 1863 Club, the apron, the main building, and the backyard. Those in the 1863 Club basement area will go up the center staircase or the loading dock area staircase. Patrons and employees on the first floor use the loading dock stairs or exit out the main lobby exits or out the front doors. Turn right toward the loading dock area or turn left to the horse path and proceed out onto the track. Those on the second floor will walk down the main staircase and out of the building or use the pedestrian bridge over to the main building. Those on the third floor will go down the center staircase or the west end staircase down to the loading dock area and continue out and away from the building. If you're located trackside on the clubhouse apron, on the dining porch, or the grandstand apron, walk forward onto the track through the emergency exit trackside gates. Turn right or left and continue along the outside rail to the exits. As you're exiting, please be mindful of any horses that may be in the area. Those in the interior clubhouse and grandstand areas will exit out into the park areas in the rear of the building and continue out through gates A and B for the grandstand and gates C and D for the clubhouse area. Those located in the second floor clubhouse box seat areas, left or right of the winner's circle, will walk down the nearest unobstructed staircase to the apron area and proceed out the trackside gates onto the track. Turn right and continue along the outside rail to gate 10. Those in the club terrace dining and standing areas will utilize the metal staircases at the rear of the building down to the ground level and continue out gate C. Once in a stairwell, should you encounter smoke or other obstructions, leave the stairwell immediately and proceed to another stairwell. Those in the first and second level turf terrace dining areas west half will proceed down the west end fire escape to the ground level and continue out gate D. Those in first and second level turf terrace dining east half will take the east end staircase onto the clubhouse roof, then continue down to the ground level and out gate C. Third and fourth level turf terrace dining west half will utilize the rear or west staircase down to the ground level and proceed out gate D. Those in third and fourth level turf terrace dining east half will utilize the east end staircase or ramp down to the clubhouse roof, then continue down to the ground level and out gates C and D. If you are in the second floor club seating, sections D through L, or the grandstand seating, sections M through Y, including the stretch seating area, proceed down the staircases to the trackside apron and proceed out onto the track. Turn left or right and continue along the outside rail to exit. Those in the second floor easy-goer dining area will go down the staircases at the rear of the building to exit through the park and out gate B. Those in the paddock area and paddock tent will walk through the paddock and out the saddling area emergency gate. Please be mindful of any horses that may be in close proximity. Those in the other rear park areas will proceed out the nearest unobstructed gate. All egress aisleways and emergency exits must be kept clear of personal articles and items. Once outside, please continue away from the gates and await further instructions from public safety personnel. Elevators and escalators will not be in use during an emergency evacuation. Guest services and security personnel will be available to guide and assist ADA guests and anyone who may require additional assistance. This concludes our evacuation plan for Saratoga Racecourse. Thank you for being prepared in advance to respond calmly in an emergency. Enjoy today's events.